Hello, fellow drinkers at the Jolly Heretic. Resident Poet here, and a hello again to those of us joining from history. Debunked. Now, I hope you're all well. First off, I shall begin by summarising Ed's Quick Pint series that he's been kind enough to produce this week. Now, the first one, a few days ago, where Ed detailed several key arguments that act as warning signs when one is dealing with a midwit. And many of these chimed in with my own personal experience, and as always, it prompted me to write a poem. Those who are sadly midwit do not, in reality, fit their own high opinions and those of their minions. They're awful, we have to admit. And then, hard on the heels of that, in another quick pint, Ed explained why shorter men are more likely to be psychopaths, thereby proving the old short man syndrome. This made me think of a few lines on that subject. If you are lacking in height, there's no need to react with spite. I know of a ruse. Put lifts in your shoes, then everything will be all right. So that was my little poem there on the subject of short man syndrome. Now, last night's stream at the Jolly Heretic, unfortunately, was delayed, and I had to leave before Ed joined. I believe he did actually start the stream eventually, and I know that he'll be mortified to have been late, but I'm sure he had excellent reasons. I'm sure he's okay. But in any case, the subject, as per the thumbnail for the stream on YouTube, was the rather, one might say, disgusting topic of how certain men enjoy the experience of being cuckolded. That is, I suppose one might say, cheated on, or rather horrible. And I'm sure Ed explained the whys and wherefores of that. And my poem on it is follows. Some men we learn of today like watching birds playing away. This sort of chap is a bit of a sap. No wonder their wives often stray. So as I say, I'm sure Ed explained the reasons for this from an evolutionary and psychological point of view. Now we turn to history debunked, and Simon's, as always, fantastic output over the last few days or so. I notice now that Simon is producing YouTube shorts, so presumably they might be called Simon's Quick Coughs. I don't know whether he's thought about that. Anyway, that's just an issue for him. Anyway, one of the videos he produced was on the benefits of vitamin D, particularly with those who might be at risk of COVID-19. The bonus of vitamin D is plain for us all now to see. It's now academic, but in a pandemic, its usage might well have been key. So yes, I know that was always controversial during the peak of COVID as to which treatments should be used. But interesting stuff in any case. And then hard on the heels of that, Simon produced a video on how in a recent theatrical production, Winston Churchill was portrayed by a black person. Now, some people might find that controversial, but in any case, it did prompt me to write a quick poem. Churchill is now shown as black. At this news, we must be laid back. In a blackout, half blind, he'd be tricky to find, like a needle in a bloody haystack. So hopefully you found that rather amusing. And then finally, Simon produced a video on the NHS and how actually, against a lot of opposition from certain quarters, it might work better were it to be at least semi-privatised. I think probably he was driving at having some sort of private medical insurance incorporated into it, much like any other Western nation. But anyway, I'm sure that debate will run and run. We hear now of the NHS. It always seems under great stress. To increase its endurance, we could try insurance. It might even be a success. Well, we'll just have to see on that one, won't we? But speaking of the NHS, hospitals, doctors, that sort of thing, it did remind me of a funny story, and I should stress that that's all it is, a funny story. So hopefully you will indulge me in telling it to you. So there's this chap, and he goes along to his doctors, and he says, "Hello, doctor, I hope you can help me. I've got a problem. It might be medical, it might be psychological, but I'd be grateful if you could listen anyway." And the doctor says, "Of course, go ahead." So the chap says, "Well, okay, I'm not Irish, but I have a huge love for the Emerald Isle. I love it. I love the ancient culture. I love the beautiful landscapes. I love the haunting music. In short, I love everything about the land of priests and poets. And my question is, how, as a non-Irishman, can I become Irish?" And the doctor thinks for a minute and says, "Yes, Yes, on the face of this might look psychological, but as luck would have it, recently there's been a new treatment released which can deal with your issue. All we do, clinically, we reduce the size of your brain by a third, and then, hey presto, you'll become Irish. And the chap says, that's fantastic. When can I have this treatment? And the doctor says, well, there's no problem. We can book you into the clinic tonight. We'll put you under anaesthetic and we'll do the operation. And then next morning, hey presto, you'll wake up and you'll be Irish. And the guy is over the moon at this. So he goes in, as the doctor says, he undergoes the anaesthetic. He's out like a light. They do the operation. And the next morning, early in the morning, the guy comes round from his anaesthetic. He looks around blearily. And the first thing he sees is the doctor. And the doctor says, oh, I'm dreadfully sorry, sir. There's been a terrible, terrible mistake. Instead of reducing your brain by a third, we actually reduced it by 2/3. And the guy in the hospital bed looks up, looks around and says, no worries, mate. She'll be right. So that was just a joke at the expense of our Australian friends, who, of course, are His Majesty's brave and loyal subjects. So that was just a roundup from me today of the Jolly Heretics output and that of History Debunked. If you did enjoy it, please do like and subscribe. And thank you very much for watching, and hopefully we'll see each other very soon. Goodbye.